and gentlemen, welcome to our fourth Global Youth Expert Forum conference. This event is hosted by Seongnam City Youth Foundation and is co-hosted by the City of Seongnam. Today's conference has the objective of exploring strategies in response to the changes caused by the pandemic. We will have 3 discussion sessions under the theme of Voice of Hope, Innovative Response of the Youth and Youth Leaders to COVID-19 Pandemic.
Still, there are 70 million Europeans who lack sufficient reading, writing, and numeracy skills, and 25% of the EU population has no upper secondary education diploma. 13% of Europeans have never used the internet. The European Commission decided to develop a competence framework in order for the citizens to better understand what we mean by digital competencies in its development, because the development started a few years ago, more than 5 years ago. What do we mean by digital competencies? They involve a confident, critical, and responsible use of and engagement with the full range of digital technologies for learning at work and for participation in society. I underline these 3 words, confident, critical, and responsible, because they are very, very important. It's not only about being confident when using digital technology, but it's also about being critical and being responsible. You cannot use digital technologies just like that. You need to have a certain amount of information and awareness before you do it. So, DigiComp. Now I'm going to delve quickly into what DigiComp is all about. Something very important that I would like to present to you is a guide that the European Commission developed for stakeholders that addresses digital skills. So this guide explains about how DigiComp can be used, what it is and how it can be used. How you can also benefit from DigiComp and how you can also integrate it into your educational activities or other forms of activities with and for young people. Another important guide that the European Commission has developed, it's actually the European Framework for Digital Competencies of Educators. DigiComp is a general competence framework for all citizens, but this one, DigiComp Edu, is a competence framework specifically designed for educators, and it can also be found online, and you can see how you can benefit from it. So this is also something that I would recommend that you check out on the internet. And then now I would like to zoom in on youth work. So what do youth workers need? What competencies in what areas youth workers need to develop in order to provide digital youth work and to support young people with the development of their digital skills? Google the name, and the name of the document is Developing Digital Youth Work, Policy Recommendations, Training Needs, and Good Practice Examples by the European Commission. So a working group came together with different stakeholders, youth workers, policymakers, etc., and they talked about what youth workers need to do in order to be present online, in order to provide digital youth work.
The term of digital literacy has been interchangeable with media literacy, ICT literacy, digital and media literacy, information literacy, and so on. However, the term of digital literacy, there has been no mutual agreement on the term of digital literacy. In my research, I used the term of digital literacy, and which encompasses all these terms overall. And I define digital literacy as the ability to access and search information online and communicate and collaborate, sharing with others, and understanding and utilize digital technologies with, as you see on the screen, the 7 elements of digital literacy. media literacy, ICT literacy, digital skills, and so on. My ongoing research on digital literacy indicates 5 areas of the core competence of digital literacy. First, information seeking with critical thinking. Second, digital content creativity with creative thinking. Third, digital communication, collaboration, and sharing. And fourth, understanding and utilizing of digital technologies with the communication, computational thinking. And the last, but the most important area, digital citizenship, the digital safety, copyright, and digital violence, and so on. So, why should youth and citizens develop their digital literacy? And in the a better understanding of youth needs and digital competence is necessary for youth foundations and youth centers to promote youth-centric tasks and to gain insights from youth through data. And finally, the development of digital skills and digital literacy should be consolidated into the classroom education for youth and lifelong learning. COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated not only the digital tech transition, but also the digital gap. Among European countries, how wide is the digital gap, and how does the Europe establish a roadmap to narrow digital gap in our digital society for social inclusion and for digital inclusion?
That since the onset of the crisis, youth did not act as spectators, but they reacted as frontline responders, tackling the spread of the virus and mitigating the many consequences of the pandemic. So we could see that youth have emerged as leading agents of communities of responses worldwide. There is another very recent research in June 2020 that it was a resource paper for the 3rd European Youth Work Convention that took place in Europe last year, and it happens every year, that the vast majority, the 74% of the young people who participated in this survey, they said that they are being connected with other young people through youth work helped them a lot. So despite the difficulties, given the difficult situations, youth work managed to make young people to feel more engaged and connected to others. Being involved in youth work helped me to deal with the overall situation, 73%. And being involved in youth work helped me to understand and interpret news in order to have a more critic and stand against fake news and be able to use the information in a more effective way. For me, I think that this one of the last categories here, but the most important, youth work gave me something meaningful to do. And I can honestly say that with the young people that we are working with, it is a message that was taken very seriously, something to expect for the next day, especially in a period of a strict lockdown, that people were isolated at home with a very, very low social and civic life. Youth work, you see, the vast majority of the responders gave something to look forward to, something positive that they were expecting for. So I think that it's more than clear that despite the difficulties, youth work played and still plays a very crucial role in the daily life of young people during the COVID, but in a post-COVID era, of course, as well. So now the question is how youth organizations are contributing to this societal resilience, and which are the ways we create this atmosphere to turn these challenges into opportunities for youth work and young people. Running information campaigns to keep youth informed of the measures to protect oneself and others was a key issue, because, there were many campaigns out there. And of course, in a situation that all the news and everything is running in an online setting, keeping youth informed about the measures to protect themselves through the channels of the youth organizations was a key issue in order to make young people more prepared, but also to protect young people from fake news and other dangerous information out there. And there is always a key question: how do we deal with the young people that do not have access to digital means? There are many areas in Greece, I can easily say, in my region, that young people have no access to internet, young people had no equipment at home. And what did youth leaders do? And if I can self-define myself together with my colleagues in our youth NGO, we as youth leaders, we try to go where these young people with fewer opportunities are, because it is very critical that youth leaders are so flexible and know where exactly young people are, so they go directly where the need is. So we don't expect young people only to come to our services, but we go where they are. And it proved to be a huge importance of such initiative, because young people felt more engaged when we were visiting them in difficult times to provide equipment and also support to access to digital means and online services. So I can personally say that it was one of the most effective means of approaching young people and tackling all the discrimination and the digital gap that we could also see.
성남시 청소년재단은 10개의 기관이 있는 제법 큰 기초지자체의 청소년재단이고, 굉장히 인프라도 안정적으로 운영이 되고 있고, 인력 자원이나 재정도 굉장히 든든하게 운영이 되고 있습니다. 그럼에도 불구하고 지난 2년간 코로나 시기에는 저희들도 바른 대처 그리고 빠른 대응이 좀 어려웠던 부분이 있었는데요. 6개월 기간의 그런 어려움 속에서 터득한 부분들이 이제 온라인으로 저희들이 활동들을 진행해 보자 해서 줌이나 리모트 미팅 등의 화상 회의 플랫폼을 통해서, 그리고 유튜브를 통해서 사업들이 다양하게 전개가 됐습니다. 2021년에는 저희가 메타버스라는 플랫폼을 활용해서 새로운 활동들을 만들어 나가는 시도들이 있었습니다. 행사, 회의, 토론, 그리고 상담까지 다양한 방식의 온라인상의 활동들을 활발하게 전개했던 사례가 있습니다. 이러한 상황에서 우리 청소년 시설들이 어떤 정책들을 가지고 운영이 돼야 될까? 첫째는 그 연구의 강화입니다. 저희 청소년계가 한 40년 정도의 역사성을 가지고 있고, 전국에 800여 개의 청소년 시설들이 운영이 되고 있는데요. 방과후 아카데미나 청소년 운영의 위원회 등은 정책 사업이면서 시작된 지가 한 15년 정도 된 걸로 기억하는데요. 이런 정책 사업으로 긴 호흡을 갖고 가는 사업들이라면 그런 종단 연구를 통해서 어떤 성과가 있는지를 직접 확인해 보는 것도 좋지 않을까 하는 생각이 들고, 두 번째로는 초연결과 융합에 대한 이야기를 하고 싶은데요. 공간을 초월하는, 그래서 참가자들이 하나의 화면, 나아가서는 하나의 공간에서 모일 수 있다는 장점이 있는 거죠. 그래서 이런 장점들을 활용해서 지역 공간적인 어려움이 있는 국가 간 교류, 그리고 장애 청소년들을 돕는 활동 등 다양하게 동기부여를 하면서도 활동이 가능하지 않을까 싶습니다. 그 예로 지금 2015년부터 진행된 웰컴 투 성남이라는 프로그램은 초기에는 한 7개국의 청소년들이 활동을 했다면, 지금은 20여 개국의 청소년들이 함께 모여서 활동을 하는 그런 모습들을 볼 수가 있고, 또 미국의 실리콘밸리에 거주하는 한인 청소년들과 우리 성남의 청소년들이 멘토링 프로그램을 하는 그 사례들도 굉장히 좋은 사례가 될 것 같다는 생각이 듭니다. 그리고 울타리라는 부분에 있어서 저는 학생과 청소년, 학교와 마을, 활동과 교육, 활동과 보호, 상담, 이런 부분들이 이분화될 수 있는가라는 좀 고민을 할 필요가 있을 것 같습니다. 대상과 영역을 연결해서 융합하는 것들이 필요하고, 그 단체와 기관 그리고 대상들이 융합하는 그런 모습들이 우리 청소년 활동에서 다양하게 보여지면 좋겠습니다.
Not really focus on the innovation. I'm going to give a general overview of the youth in Malawi and what is happening So we all know what youth, the definition of the youth. Globally, it's anyone who is between the age of 10 to 35 years old. And this is regardless of the sex, their culture, or their physical marital status. And then so for us in Malawi, we have a lot of issues that we're dealing with amongst the youth. We have the youth. In our policy, we define the youth to encompass anyone living with HIV. We are not leaving out anyone with disabilities and anyone in prisons, especially in juvenile center, as long as they qualify in the definition of the youth, then we are also including them. And then all the youth, whether they are in the rural areas or they are in the urban areas. And then in terms of employment, this is one of my graphs. We see a very high unemployment rate among the youth, and we also have all other issues of the quality of employment. We find that a lot of youth are not employed in high quality employment, where high quality means maybe white collar jobs. A lot of them will be involved like in casual work or in farm work, which is low paying. So that's the definition of low quality work, low paying jobs, either in family setups or where they are employed, they are not formally employed. There'll be a lot of them will be in informal employment. So even though the youth comprise almost a bigger percentage of the population, and we are considering them as a demographic dividend, we're not really utilizing them because they are the energetic ones. We're not really utilizing them in the formal employment sector. And then in terms of COVID, in Malawi, so far we've registered 61,865 cases, 2,304 being deaths. This is only in 2021, from April to November 2021. And we see that in terms of who it has affected, it's mostly the youth from the group 10 to 19 up to 30 to 39. That group has been highly affected by COVID, although we did not see a lot of death from that particular group. But in terms of getting the COVID, we had a high number of cases amongst the youth, which is unlike in other places where it was being reported that the older groups are the ones that are being affected. Here, it was actually the youth that are getting more COVID. And more of those were male than females. So COVID has brought its own challenges amongst us, other than the ones that we already had. In terms of education, we've seen, as someone has already described, we've seen the shift. Because schools were disrupted, we had to close schools, and because we have very poor digital infrastructure, we had to rely on people going back to school and then closing the schools and then staggering the semesters so that we have little number of people on campus. Like for us, that's what we did. And then because we have not digitalized our teaching systems, it's been very challenging for the youth. Youth have been having to stay long at home. They are not, you see that I'll just be speaking because we have not done an empirical study to study the effects of youth and having the numbers that I can mention. But a lot of the youth that were also employed as casual labor or informal employment have lost jobs because companies had to close and other people had gone out of business. So that is what COVID has done for us in Malawi. We have poor digital infrastructure where it is working in other parts of the country. Maybe 50% of the country doesn't have internet connectivity. So as you can see already, that is a big challenge. So far, there hasn't been any initiative to improve that. So one of the recommendations that we've been making is that the government should look at subsidizing the cost of internet so that kids can be able to access education even when they are at home. So in closing, I would say that even though we have the different policies in Malawi that have included youth, we should move to implementation because there is a disconnect between the policies that are there and the action that is happening on the ground.
I'd like to speak about the strategy for the Seongnam Youth Foundation under Corona. First, the Corona situation in Korea. Because of social distancing regulations, the youth center was temporarily closed from February 6, 2010 to December 31st. We couldn't do anything. 30 of our staff had to work from home. We couldn't do anything except through Zoom meetings. The second is the consideration of the Youth Foundation. First, are youth activities possible in this situation? Second, what kind of activities are possible? Third, is there any solution? Here, I'd like to suggest 3 keywords as the solution we used. First, metaverse. Second, on and on. Third, youth play right. First, metaverse. In our youth centers, we often use 3 kinds of metaverses. The first is Ghetto Town. We had special lectures by famous overseas professors and exchanges with other cities. Second is eFriend. Youth exchanges, sports competitions, and recreational games were held with other cities. Third, Geppetto. A cyber youth center was built in a virtual space. The second strategy is on and on. This was an emergency support project where food and toys were delivered directly to the home. Mentoring program, matching college students and elementary school students to help them study, and offer emotional support was provided through free group counseling. The third strategy was to protect youth right to play and last according to the UNESCO Convention on Children. All workers in the youth center painted the ground in front of youth center to provide space for playing. I would like to suggest 3 things. First, the age of the metaverse has now begun. I believe it is necessary to develop various youth programs by utilizing metaverse. Second, I think it is necessary to develop a new international exchange program in a new age. In the Welcome to Seongnam program, 50 youth foreigners from 20 countries and 20 Korean youth have met 12 times on Zoom. I look forward to many international exchanges and cooperation programs in the future on metaverse. Third, we need to focus on the right of youth. Due to the coronavirus, many young people have difficulties and are depressed. In particular, I believe that the right to play and rest should be emphasized to create a healthy and happy environment during the childhood.